What to do, where to go, what's happening and when. The spotlight's on fun and excitement all this week from the Lehigh Valley and beyond. So check out your calendar and let's go!
Hi folks, welcome to Let's Go. I'm Grover Silcox. On this episode, we're going to be rolling in dough in Lancaster County, gearing up for sheep shearing season in Worcester, Montgomery County. But first, it's time for dinner and a movie at the Casino Theater in Mount Pocono.
There's a lot involved with the Casino Theater and Village Malt Shop. Casino Theater, a two-screen theater. Village Malt Shop, we have ice cream and we serve burgers. We have a game room, which is designed for little kids. And we have a miniature golf outside, which is 18 holes. We have been in business for 42 years. My wife and I, this is our 12th year because we're second generation.
When we first started, it looked more like an old-fashioned Victorian ice cream parlor, but over the years, it turned into a 50s theme. We bought a jukebox, an old Coca-Cola machine from the 50s. We also have statues of our favorite 50s stars, Elvis, Marilyn Monroe. Betty Boop is everywhere. I think we have 30 Betty Boops.
I'm hungry for entertainment and good food. Hi.
Hello.
I'd like to order the California burger, well done.
And would you like fries with that?
I would, but I would like the sweet potato fries.
Dinner and a movie we have every Monday and Tuesday. Our patrons have a lot of options. They can eat out front and then go into the movies, or they can order at the candy counter and eat in the theater, or they can wait and eat after the movie. We'll set up a table for them so when they come out, they know they have a table set for them.
We have homemade popcorn that we make ourselves every day. We also have paninis, wraps, cheesesteaks.
We have 60 flavors of Hershey ice cream.
How about dessert? A hot fudge sundae.
And would you like a cherry on top?
No, I'm on a diet.
No problem.
The movies that we show are typically first run. It's regular theater seating on a sloped floor. We have two screens, so one side's 135 and one's 165. So we have a total of 300 seats in the facility. Within a half hour after the movie starts, we bring in their tray of food.
Oh, thank you. Oh, now you're cooking.
Enjoy.
Or should I say now I'm eating?
This is a fun place to bring the family. What we really see is that we've had people that have been here 30 years ago, and now they're bringing their kids. And then you got the grandparents bringing the grandkids. So it's generation after generation. They've been coming back here because they want to bring back old times.
Where can you go and have your burger and fries and a hot fudge sundae in the movie?
Thank you. Oops, no cherry. Do you dig the quirky, kitschy, kooky, and cool with a dash of fringe and risque? I give you then Love Saves the Day, a wild, off-the-wall curiosity shop of treasures that you can browse, buy, and enjoy in the heart of New Hope.
Love Saves the Day is a very special place. We specialize in vintage clothing that ranges from the 1800s through the 1970s. One of the fun things that we sell the most of are Vietnam field jackets. We have them from Vietnam and Korea. People love to customize them by putting patches on them, and they are not reproductions. They are real issued Vietnam jackets, which keep you warm. They're super fun. Then we have tons of 1960s and 1970s clothing. We like to specialize in Jenny Gump dresses. We call them Jenny Gump, just like Forrest Gump. We do a lot of music memorabilia and vintage toys from the 1900s through the 1970s. We're pretty much anything pre-1980s in here. One of our best customers and the people who keep us in business, I'd say, are theater companies and production companies, television shows that need props that are authentic and not fake, or repros. And then I deal with a lot of pinup models and reenactors as well. Everything from Civil War to the World War II. We deal a lot with 1940s and World War II. Love the King in here. We do a lot of vintage rock and roll memorabilia, but Elvis is definitely one of our favorites. Some of our favorite Elvis items in the store are, we have the It Happened at the World's Fair original movie poster here. That is not a reproduction, that is an original lithograph. We love that. We're also a Kurt Russell fan, so that helps. We also have my personal collection here is, I have a Memphis Mafia jacket. Generally you couldn't get one of those unless you worked for Elvis or you were part of the Memphis Mafia or a family member of one of theirs. This guy is not for sale. This is my personal collection. Oh, the Beatles, yeah. Fine, you're either an Elvis fan or a Beatles fan is what I do seem to find in this store. I never usually find both. But I will tell you, I am the Elvis fan and my business partner is the Beatles fan. So we do share our love for the music. We sell tons of vinyl records. We do not sell new records. We sell 1970s and prior. Our top selling vinyls, I'd say, are David Bowie, Led Zeppelin, Prince, Elvis, of course, and lots of Frank Sinatra. This is super cool. This is a human analysis machine from 1920s, the late 20s, the early 30s. He's a lot of fun. All the cards that he prints out for each person are the original cards that he used to print back in the day. And he's a super fun machine. People come from all over the place to play with him because I guess it's a little piece of nostalgia that you don't always get. Your analysis. Your appearance is striking. There is something suggestive in your features, very elusive. Barbie's another thing that we specialize in, vintage Barbies. That's a whole world of its own. My goodness, one little shoe can change the price of one little Barbie. Well, we have a lot of comic book people. We sell vintage comics, tons of Star Wars collectibles. We do Pez. Pez is a huge collection for us. The most important thing to learn about Love Saves the Day is you're going to come in here and you're going to experience something that you're not going to experience somewhere else. We have items that you probably haven't seen since your childhood, and the range of ages is a very large range. So it could have been 20 stuff, 30 stuff, 50 stuff, 70 stuff. And it's a moving piece of artwork in here. So product is always moving, people are always touching, feeling, smelling, and it's fun. It's kind of like a little museum. It's a working, living, breathing museum.
And now let's check out this week's Let's Go family-friendly finds.
Calling all kids, ages 2 to 10. You can learn, play, and have a blast at the Hands On House Children's Museum in Lancaster, PA.
Hands On House Children's Museum of Lancaster is a nonprofit organization whose mission is to create landmark learning experiences for children and their families through play. We create exhibits that are hands-on and developmentally appropriate for children. There's no stress of tests, and it's just a fun place to be and learn. The Junior League of Lancaster actually started us in 1987. They did all the research and put together grants to make sure that we could have a building, and we've been in existence for 30 years. True to our name, when you walk in is a little house, and when you go into your house, you end up in your backyard. So our first exhibit is all about your backyard. There is a tree house in there, lots of fun things, including a face painting porch. From there, we move on and we tout our Lancaster County heritage. We have a farming exhibit there with a big tractor from Case New Holland who sponsored that exhibit. We have a grocery store and a post office. In the back, we have Marty's Machine, which is to teach children about careers and different type of activities that you could do when you're an adult. The clubhouse is all about science, technology, engineering, art and math, or STEAM. Every single thing in here is meant to be developmentally appropriate for children ages 2 to 10.
Hi, I'm Emily Elizabeth, and I have a dog named Clifford. We saw a sign that said the circus was in town, and there was a smaller sign that said, "Help Wanted."
This month's theme is circus, so we have magic tricks and a whole circus set up over on the side here. And we have always some kind of engineering activity with blocks and building. Hands-on House Children's Museum of Lancaster is unique because we cater to children that are preschool all the way through 10 years old. Our exhibits are hands-on, interactive, and developmentally appropriate, and so children learn without even knowing. One of our best sayings is, "Where learning and playing go hand in hand."
George Washington loved his foxhounds. They say it was one of his favorite dogs. That's why the Valley Forge Park Alliance is throwing a big event Tuesday, April 24th, called the General's Hounds. It's going to be an evening of hounds, hot dogs, history, and presidential ale, all to support a local animal rescue, the Valley Forge Park Alliance, and American history.
You are on the grounds of the Washington Memorial Chapel, which is in the heart of Valley Forge National Historical Park. It's a memorial to George Washington and a place of worship. We have a congregation of about 225, but it was founded in 1903 to be a memorial to George Washington. It is on hallowed ground. It is in Valley Forge, where the Valley Forge encampment was. And it is meant to honor both George Washington, the Founding Fathers and Patriots, and particularly the troops who served here at Valley Forge.
On April 24th, the Valley Forge Park Alliance, in partnership with the Washington Memorial Chapel and Mainline Animal Rescue, will be holding an event called the General's Hounds. It's a friend-raiser, really. We hope to raise a little bit of funding for the organizations. Dogs are invited as well. Registration is online at vfparkalliance.org. Tickets can be bought there in advance. We will have General George Washington. He was the first person to breed the American Foxhound. In addition, we will have a variety of American Foxhounds here. Some of them have been adopted out by Mainline Animal Rescue, and some of them are still up for adoption. We thought it would be a fun event. There's so much history at Valley Forge. George Washington is obviously a huge part of it. The Valley Forge Park Alliance works hard to connect the community to the park, and dog walkers are a huge part of that community.
Mainline Animal Rescue, we are a complete nonprofit organization. We actually do not even charge an adoption fee. Every dollar that we raise to keep going is, of course, made completely through donations. We don't receive any state or federal funding either. So everything that's raised is going to help us with our rehab and recovery programs. Some are in need of medical recovery. Some are in need of more behavioral or emotional recovery. They could have come from neglectful situations, sometimes abusive situations. Sometimes it's just as simple as they just need a place to kind of get a fresh start.
Mainline Animal Rescue does offer a lot of programs that do help acclimate a lot of dogs, especially puppy mill dogs that might have not had an experience of living in a household before. So the sound of a microwave or a phone ringing, these are all unfamiliar for puppy mill dogs. So when they get to their new home, we want to make sure that they understand that these are just normal everyday sounds so that they are desensitized by the time they get to their house.
Wait. Okay. Yes. Good boy.
So Trigger came to us from an overcrowded shelter. He is 2.5 years old, super, super loving, gets along with dogs, does not care for cats, but he is a lovely running buddy, hiking partner, super smart. He's a very quick learner and a very super affectionate dog. He is available for adoption also. People
People should come to this event because it's going to be a lot of fun and experience history and have fun with your dog and support the park animal rescue and the chapel.
Looking for some fun this Saturday? Check out the Peter Wentz Historical Farmstead. Bah, you say? Well, you're in the right frame of mind because it's sheep shearing time at the farmstead. They'll show you how to shear a sheep. You'll meet some friendly oxen, check out the chickens, the horses, and see how colonial folks farmed the land.
The Peter Wentz Farmstead is a living history agricultural museum, and we attempt to give people the opportunity to see and interact with a slice of the 18th century. Peter Wentz was a resident of Worcester Township in the 18th century. We have 97 acres of the original tract of land that Peter had. The county purchased the property and opened it for the bicentennial, so the farm basically was in continuous operation throughout its entire life. The farmhouse is actually furnished in furniture and other things that would have been appropriate for the 18th century. All of our animals are here because they are what would have been typically on an 18th century farm, and they all have a very important aspect in the daily life of the 18th century farmer. Chickens obviously produce eggs and meat. The cattle produce milk primarily for us and also labor. This is Sam and Peg. This is Sam on this side and this is Peg. They were born Labor Day weekend last year, so they're just about 9 months old. We've been working with them, training with them just about every day we can, and they're doing phenomenal. And Sam loves attention, as you can tell. This coming Saturday, we will be shearing our sheep. We're now in our sheepfold. The sheepfold is actually the structure where we keep the sheep in to keep them safe at night. These are the animals that we will be shearing on Saturday. Standing here is our ram. This is Mo. All of our ewes will be getting shorn. You can also see a couple of our lambs that were born here. Shearing sheep has not changed drastically. It's just a haircut. It really is. Everybody worries, and it's probably the most frequent question I get asked is, are you hurting the sheep? The truth is, basically, they calm down because of the way you're handling them. You're not upsetting them. You're holding them in a position where they basically will settle down. And all I'm doing is giving them a haircut. You can see they're very sharp. They go through the wool very easily. So I will basically set the sheep down on their haunches, start with the belly, and I shear from the belly to the backbone, and the fleece comes off much like taking a coat off. Sitting here in front of me is a fleece. This is the fleece that came off of Mo last year to give you an idea of just how much wool comes off of a sheep when you shear. And if I hold this up, this is close to 10 pounds of wool. So when you think about what comes off of a sheep, this is it. In between shearing, we allow people to go into the building where the sheep are and they can interact with them. We will have people who are spinning wool, who are washing and preparing wool so that it can be spun. We will have people doing dyeing. We will also have a number of other crafts being demonstrated that would be seasonally appropriate. The entire site will be open and people are encouraged to walk around, and we always encourage people to see the animals and enjoy the rest of the farm.
Let's Go wants your photos and videos. Have you recently gone on a trip in or around the greater Lehigh Valley? Have you found a hidden museum or a new outdoor location to spend the afternoon? Well, Let's Go wants to hear from you. Share your videos or photos and we may feature them in a future episode. Email them to letsgo@wlvt.org or upload them at wlvt.org/letsgo.
Want to meet some folks who can turn a piece of wood into a work of art? Head over to the Nakashima Woodworker Workshops and Studio, just 6 minutes from Main Street, New Hope.
George Nakashima Woodworkers was established by my father in the 1940s. He was trained as an architect before he went into furniture. My father has been called one of the first people in the American craft movement in the 20th century. He started off calling himself a designer craftsman, and then he switched to woodworker, and it wasn't really a respectable term back in the 40s. And now everybody wants to be a woodworker because they think it's glamorous, but it was a lot of hard work. Well, the funny thing is, when Dad first started out, he didn't have much money, so he would go to the lumber yard and he would buy basically like the cast-off pieces, which included cracks and holes and knots. You know, if you cut out the crack and glued it back together, it would be okay, but Dad decided just to keep it the way it was by joining it with these butterflies here. People didn't understand what he was doing, but after a while, they would pay extra for the cracks in the butterflies. So now everybody does butterflies in the woodworking industry. And people think that my father invented butterflies. They were actually part of Japanese architecture from centuries ago. Dad said he starts with the wood, but it also depends a lot on the design of that particular piece of wood. When the wood comes in, it's fairly rough, so it has to be selected for each job, and the design staff works with the client to make sure that we get the lumber selected. The wood we use is mostly black walnut from Pennsylvania. Our craftsmen are at various levels of fluency. Some of them are more artistic than others. Some of them are specialize in tables, and the chair department basically makes verbatim the way my father designed them, and they're happy doing that. Some of them are really good at finishing, so they're in the finishing department sanding and checking on the fill and the color and making sure that they're ready to ship when they're ready to ship. Our open house is Saturday afternoons between 1 and 4:30, and we describe it as a self-guided tour. Nowadays, we get a lot of curious woodworkers wanting to see the real thing, because I guess Dad was one of the first people who did woodworking this way. It's also just the atmosphere, the buildings, the ambiance. On a nice day, it's, you know, the landscaping is pretty nice.
From the Peter Wentz Historical Farmstead, thanks for joining us on this episode of Let's Go. Check in with us next week and we'll have lots more fun things for you and the family to do.
There are 3 museums. This one was opened in about 2000. What we have here is my dad's collection of his father's work. It's not everything, but it's a good collection, and people are pretty happy to see what they can.
Maybe there's someone in your family that's no longer driving, and you just don't need that extra car anymore. Donate your vehicle to public television. We make it easy. Just call or visit us online.
I watched PBS Kids growing up for as long as I can remember. I watched a lot of Arthur and Caillou and Reading Rainbow. I watched the Anne of Green Gables animated series. That's how I was familiar with the story. I definitely related to Anne in the way that she's energetic and curious about everything. I think that's what's great about PBS, is just all the diverse kinds of series that you could just sit back and look at the world around you and appreciate all the little things.
Over a decade ago, my wife and I bought our first house. It was a fixer-upper. As soon as we ran into trouble, which was pretty early on, we actually sent a letter to this old house looking for some advice. To my surprise, we got a call saying, hey, we'd like to come out to your house and film a segment for Ask This Old House. So Tom Silva and the crew showed up at the house, and a month later, remarkably, I got a phone call, and they said, hey kid, you want to be the host of these 2 shows, This Old House and Ask This Old House? I thought about it for about 2 seconds and I said yes. And that was about 10, 11 years ago, and ever since then I've been hosting the 2 shows. When Tom Silva and Norm Abram and Richard Chathui and Roger Cook and I walk on to a job site, We are empowered to be honest, to be straightforward, to ask tough questions, and to actually give advice that is unfiltered and is unaffected by whether or not a commercial underwriter or sponsor has paid for the show. I truly believe that this is the only network, this is the only place that a show like This Old House could thrive and could survive for 35 years. But the ability to speak with an honest and clear voice is something that PBS allows us to do.
I love PBS. It's that gift to our culture. It is the very best reflection of ourselves. Ken Burns National Parks, unbelievable. Frontline, most extraordinary because they have no barriers. They're just right there. Just find a PBS channel and it'll just take you to all those wonderful places. I can't imagine a world without PBS. I don't want to.
Over a decade ago, my wife and I bought our first house. It was a fixer-upper. As soon as we ran into trouble, which was pretty early on, we actually sent a letter to This Old House looking for some advice. To my surprise, we got a call saying, hey, we'd like to come out to your house and film a segment for Ask This Old House. So Tom Silva and the crew showed up at the house, and a month later, remarkably, I got a phone call and they said, hey kid, you want to be the host of these two shows, This Old House and Ask This Old House? I thought about it for about 2 seconds and I said yes. And that was about 10, 11 years ago, and ever since then I've been hosting the two shows. When Tom Silva and Norm Abram and Richard Chathui and Roger Cook and I walk onto a job site, we are empowered to be honest, to be straightforward, to ask tough questions, and to actually give advice that is unfiltered and is unaffected by whether or not a commercial underwriter or sponsor has paid for the show. I truly believe that this is the only network, this is the only place that a show like This Old House could thrive and could survive for 35 years. But the ability to speak with an honest and clear voice is something that PBS allows us to do.
PBS 39 counts on the generosity of our viewers so we can keep delivering all the news, ideas, culture, and intelligent entertainment that you expect. And while every donation is precious, there's a very special level of donors who have emerged as true leaders of this station. The PBS 39 Leadership Society is made up of distinguished community supporters who have a strong passion for public media and who understand the value of PBS 39 as an important community asset. We've created society member giving levels that speak to your specific interests and program tastes. Now is a great time to join as a friend with an ongoing monthly contribution of $100 or a one-time gift of $1,000. To become a friend or to request more information about the PBS 39 Leadership Society, please call 610-984-8134 or sign up online at WLVT.org.